Unit 8, IELTS Listening, Section 4. You will hear a lecturer talking about historical migration in China. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
Today, I'd like to look at one of the single biggest migrations in history, the rural to urban migration that has taken place in China. Most countries in Europe have urban populations of over 80% of the citizens, but until recently, this number was much lower in China. In recent years, it has gone from a predominantly rural country to an increasingly urban one. In research conducted by Kam-Wing Chan from the University of Washington, just under 500 million people moved to urban areas between 1979 and 2009. That is the equivalent of the total populations of Mexico and America moving. So what led to this huge migration pattern? It largely comes down to three government policies. In 1979, China introduced the one-child policy. This often led to people getting married later and a fall in rural family size to 1.5 children. This fall in rural population led to a drastic drop in the number of agricultural workers. Soon after this, in the mid-1980s, the hukou or huji system was loosened. This was a residence registration system designed in the 1950s to limit and control internal migration within China. Largely due to this system, the number of internal migrants from the countryside to cities was very limited. China simultaneously introduced its major economic reform, the Reform and Open Policy. Up until this point in time, China had been a relatively closed country, but this policy led to levels of growth never seen before. This growth led to the need for more workers in cities, and hence the government reduced the limits of rural to urban migration to allow the growth to continue. So, what has been the impact of this mass urbanization? According to a report by the China National Bureau of Statistics, 44.4% of new generation migrant workers work in manufacturing. Those born after 1990 are just 17 years old when they migrate to the city and, as a result, often have very few years of schooling. On the positive side, this movement of new generation migrants has significantly reduced levels of poverty in the country by increasing the income for many poorer families. One of the biggest concerns regarding migration is the impact on people's health. The lack of affordable healthcare for many, along with the overpopulation in certain urban areas, has led to poor ratios of doctors to patients in certain parts of China. People also now eat increasing amounts of fast food and meat as salaries have increased. What was once too expensive for many is consumed in much greater quantities. As a result, health-related issues such as obesity have become a growing concern. On the plus side, there have also been many positive developments in healthcare in China. Life expectancy is higher in cities than in rural areas. Infant mortality, or child deaths, is also much lower. Children under the age of 1 have an 86% survival rate in cities compared to 66% in rural areas. Furthermore, only 3% of children in urban areas are malnourished, compared with 14% in rural areas. Lifestyles have also dramatically changed, with ownership of cars, televisions, computers, and white goods, for example, washing machines, refrigerators, clothes dryers, all increasing in urban areas. The people growing up in cities today tend to have higher literacy rates, and urban residents tend to pursue higher levels of education as more and more go to university as opposed to those living in rural areas.
That is the end of section 4. You now have half a minute to check your answers. In the real exam, you now have 10 minutes to transfer your answers to the listening answer sheet.